Hello, hello, hello. Check 1, 2. How is it sounding? Hello, hello, hello. Check. Yeah, sounds all right. Let's get this thing going. Sweet, it looks like everything is working. Hello and welcome to another Wednesday song feedback stream. This is what we do here on Wednesdays. You guys are going to send me your tracks and I'm going to take a listen to them and give you my honest feedback on them. For those of you guys who are new, the way this works is there's a link that I just pinned in the chat. Click on that link, it takes you to a Google Doc, and that's where you are going to put in your link to wherever I can stream your song, and I will get to them in the order that I receive them. So before we get started though, at the start of all of these streams, I like to kind of go through the general rules, guidelines, things you should be considering if you are going to be sending me a track. So first off, original tracks only, no remixes, nothing like that. Mostly because YouTube is just, their automatic copyright thing is very sensitive and I don't want to have to deal with that. So ideally, no remixes, original tracks only. On top of that, it is preferred but not required that you send me works in progress. That way you can actually take the feedback I'm going to give you, go back and use it to change things, update things as you need to. If you don't have anything that is still a works in progress and you would still want to get feedback on something that you released recently, you are more than welcome to do so. But just to let you know, works in progress are generally considered the way to do it. Also, on top of that, all skill levels, all genres, all experience levels, all styles are welcome here. It doesn't matter what you make, I want to hear it. So don't feel like if you are making something different than everybody else that you shouldn't send a track. In fact, it is encouraged that if you're making something different, that you send it in. On top of that, what else are we doing? If you are giving feedback, it is not required, but it is highly encouraged that you give feedback to other people. That way, this becomes a community thing. It's not just me talking into the screen, but everybody helps each other out. Everybody works together. Everybody kind of like grows together. On top of that, my feedback might not be, the right feedback. It might not be the thing that's, I don't know, everybody's feedback is very subjective, right? So, it's good to hear different voices and different people's opinions about tracks, and it just helps out, makes the whole thing more interesting. As I mentioned earlier, songs will be covered on a first come, first served basis, just going top to bottom through the spreadsheet. Please only one song at a time. Usually I have time during these streams to get to multiple tracks from people towards the end, but just to make sure we have time for everybody, one song at a time. And if there is time at the end, I'll let you guys know, and then you can send in a second track. Also, on top of that, this video, as well as all the other streams that I do on the channel, are all posted to the channel. They're not in the main videos page. They're on the playlist page. So if you want to go back and review your feedback later on, you are more than welcome to do that. On top of that, if you can't make it to a stream live and you want to send in a song and get some feedback, I use the same spreadsheet every week. So just go in there, add your link in there, and then it'll be at the top of the list for the next stream. So just keep an eye out for that. And then, of course, if you can't make the stream live, you can always watch the video later on. Hey, Jack, how you doing? Yeah, go ahead and take your time, type in some stuff in. We'll get to your track in just a moment. And then lastly, all the feedback that I do here is free. I do this for fun because I enjoy it, and it's something that I think is interesting and worthwhile to do. However, if you would like to help support the channel, you want to keep me doing this, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe if you're not already subscribed, you can go check out all the videos on the channel, you can go tell all your friends, post about it on social media, any of that stuff. Those are all free ways that you can help the channel. And if you would like to help support the channel financially, you can put in super chats in the YouTube chat, and that's a cool way to do it. You can also check out the Patreon, where I do extra bonus streams and workshops and stuff going on over there. So yeah, so that I think is all of the housekeeping stuff, all the things you need to know. And once again, in case anybody is just joining us, if you would like to submit a song, click on the link that is pinned up at the top of the chat, and then that will take you to the spreadsheet. And then the spreadsheet is where you send me your songs, or song singular. Sweet, so I think we're gonna go ahead and just get started with a track from Jack. Let me pause that, pull this up here. And as always with the first song of the week, I'm gonna do a little bit of a sound check. So let me know if it sounds a little bit too quiet, too loud, somewhere in between. Let me know. Nice. I'm curious where that video came from. Is that something you made yourself, or how did you do that? Sweet. So I think that there are a lot of things that this track has going on that are working. I think the synth work sounds pretty strong. I think it sounds like the whole thing feels really cohesive. It all kind of like fits together really well. The arrangement worked pretty well, I think. But I think there's a few kind of like minor details here and there that I think could actually make a really big difference. So first off, I think the mix needs a little bit of love. There were some things that were felt a little bit too loud, some things that felt a little too quiet, and that overall the whole thing felt very cluttered. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that a little bit of really kind of detail-oriented mixing will help clear it up quite a bit. So first off, I feel like your vocals are a little bit over-processed to me. Both in terms of like some of the like auto-tuney kind of stuff you have going on, as well as probably more importantly, some of the reverbs and delay kind of sounds you have on the vocals that just, there's a lot of extra background stuff that's happening with your vocals that I think if that wasn't there, the whole thing would sound a lot clearer. Yeah, there's so much reverb on that. So I think you can tone down that reverb quite a bit and then turn up the volume on the main vocal part with a little bit less reverb. And I think that'll make the vocals cut through the mix a bit more so they're not competing with the reverb, and then it'll just, again, kind of like declutter it quite a bit. Other than that, I do feel like your synths could be a little bit more aggressive. Hey, Ganya, how you doing? Both in terms of like saturation, maybe a little bit more distortion, maybe a little bit more volume. Make the synths feel a little bit more aggressive than they are. I think they're on the right path. They're doing the right thing right now. But I think they could definitely be a little bit heavier, and I think that would work for this track. And then for some reason, your hi-hats to me sounded really loud. Yeah, hats are like significantly too loud. I would turn them down by quite a bit, and I think that would be totally fine. But I think those are kind of like the main mixing things I'm noticing. And I think if you clear those up, it'll make a big difference. You could get a tiny bit more kick in there, a little bit more volume on the kick, and I wouldn't mind that. But I think the kick is pretty close to where it needs to be. Yeah, like here the vocals are way too quiet. You're like barely getting any in there. All right, and then I feel like the other big thing I feel like this track could really use is a little bit more like melodic content. You do some nice stuff with the synthesizers over here. But there's not really a melody that's going on here that's not being carried pretty much entirely by the vocals. So I think having a synth melody line that's either echoing what the vocals are doing or doing something that's kind of like based off of what the vocals are doing melodically, I think would help tie the vocals to the synth parts together, and also give you a little bit more going on in that more kind of like higher frequency range. And I think that'll add a lot of like character to this track. But yeah, those are the main things I'm noticing there for the most part. I think it sounds pretty good. I think you get a really solid start here. It's mostly the mix stuff that I think could make all the difference in the world there. Chat, it looks like a bunch of people have just now joined us. If you want to send in a track, click on the link that's pinned up at the top of the chat, and then that'll take you to the spreadsheet, and that's where you send me your tracks. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about this track. Yeah, so Jordan, you click on the link, it takes you to the spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet, you just put your link in the list underneath everybody else's, and that's how you send me tracks. Sweet, and then Jack asked the question that I was ignoring till now. So you go to your MIDI track and create a short clip, and then draw a couple notes from the beginning to the end of the clip. And all right, let me read this again. Then draw a couple notes from the beginning to the end, and then cut this clip in half, and now crop the second half. The note will disappear. Why? All right, let's try this out. So we make a new clip. We got a note that goes from the beginning to the end. And you cut it in half. So like you want to do like this half, and then you crop it like that. I'm assuming that's what you're asking about. That's because the thing about MIDI is that the MIDI note start is the most important thing, right? So wherever this note on message is what kind of like, that's what makes that MIDI note happen, right? The rest of the note just tells it like essentially when to turn off. So the note start is important, and then the note end is important. So when you're cropping this clip right here, if you're cropping this half, the note start on the timeline. So if we're over here, we got a MIDI clip, the MIDI note that goes all the way through. Cut it in half. I think it's the same situation here. And then we go to, let me crop this one. Or like we crop it down here. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just that the MIDI note on message is in this clip. Right, this is where that's happening. So the note on message is the important part. So when we're cropping this, because the note on message is not in this clip, when I crop it, it just assumes that, okay, since the note on message is not there in that clip, then it gets rid of it. I'm assuming that's your question. That's kind of what you're asking about. Let me know if you're asking about something slightly different than that. Sweet. So next up, we got a track from Gontia. Yeah, I can see how if that's like part of your process, where if you're slicing clips and then cropping them, yeah, the note on message determines a lot about those clips. And as far as I know, there's no way to like change that behavior. That's just the way it's going to be. All right. Sweet. So we're going to listen to this track from Ganya. And again, if anybody is just joining us and would like to send a track in, click on the link pinned up at the top of the chat. Nice, that track was dope. Really love the drums here. The drums have this like really fantastic groovy feel to them. They're crushing it on that part. And for the most part, I really love the sound design. It's like not too over the top. It has like the right amount of elements. Really nice mix. Everything sounds really high quality here. I do feel like it's missing something. It needs like another layer in here. I was thinking either vocals or some kind of like acoustic instrument, like some horns, like a saxophone, or I don't know, somebody playing an instrument on top that I think would contrast really nicely with kind of the like electronicness of the rest of the track, and I think it would work really well. Another idea I had would be to go really glitchy with it and like put lots of like little percussive glitchy things, reverse things, triplets, like go kind of crazy with it, and I think that'd be really fun. Young, if you want to submit a track, click on the link that's pinned up at the top of the chat, and that'll take you to the spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet is where you put your link to your track. So I think a couple more layers here I think would do really well to really kind of flesh out this track a bit more. And I think you could do it with staying minimalistic as well. My other piece of feedback has to do with that kind of rising sound, that sound. I think it has a little bit too much delay on it. I also just think in terms of sound design, it could sound a little cooler. Like I like the concept, I like the kind of motion, that kind of like filter motion you're doing with it. But I think, I've heard your sound design before. I think that I think you could go a little bit more experimental with it, maybe a little more interesting with some of the sound design in terms of that specific sound. Because I think it's cool, but I think it could be cooler. I also think like the melody parts here are really subtle. You could put more emphasis on those, and I wouldn't mind that. I also really like this kind of like whipping bass line kind of thing you have going on here. I would like to see a little bit more variety with that though. Like I think what it's doing is really cool, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't really change much throughout the whole song. So a little bit more variety on that would be great. Just in terms of like rhythmically. And I think a little bit more of a crescendo, a little bit more energy in this last section here. And I think that'd be really cool. But those are all kind of pretty minor things. I think overall the track itself sounds really solid. As always, really nice work on this. Sweet. Chat, you got any thoughts, questions, comments, ideas about Gauntlet's track? I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, but since there's more people here now, if you are submitting a track for feedback, it is expected but not required of you to give other people feedback. So let people know what you think about their tracks. And that way we all help each other out. All right, next up we check from Brought.
Roll the dice, let's see what happens. It's late at night. Where is the action? I'm starry-eyed. Wanna take a leap of faith and don't think twice, think twice. Roll the dice, let's see what happens. It's late at night. Where is the action? I'm starry-eyed. Wanna take a leap of faith and don't think twice, think twice. Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Don't think twice, think twice. Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Maybe I could be your lucky charm. Bet your heart on me and love me, hear your hunch. I could be your 21, so baby double down. Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Roll the dice, let's see what happens. It's late at night. Where is the action? I'm starry-eyed. Wanna take a leap of faith and don't think twice, think twice. Roll the dice, let's see what happens. It's late at night. Where is the action? I'm starry-eyed. Wanna take a leap of faith and don't think twice, think twice. Are you lucky now? Maybe I could be your lucky charm. Bet your heart on me and love me, hear your hunch. I could be your 21, so baby double down. Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now? Are you lucky now?
Nice. Overall, really solid work here. The vocals sound super, super clean. They fit in the mix perfectly. The drums sound pretty solid. I like what you got going with the kick drum. And I think probably my favorite part is the synth work you're doing here. That kind of like rolling bass line works really well. I really like the more aggressive synth line towards the end. Overall, fit together really, really well. A couple things that I noticed. Number one, this section here, the volume feels a little bit off. Like I know you're trying to like bring the volume down a bit before the drop,
Are you lucky now?
but it doesn't feel right to me. So I think you can bring up the volume on that synth line there a bit, and I think that'd be totally fine. And it would still transition nicely into your first kind of like main drop section. Other than that, I do really like what you're doing with your clap. If it were up to me, and this might be a very kind of subtle, nitpicky kind of thing, a little bit less decay on the clap so it doesn't ring out for quite so long, and a little bit more volume. And I think what that will accomplish is making the clap feel a little bit tighter and a little bit louder and give it a little bit more kind of impact. I think right now it works pretty well.
Are you lucky now?
But if it were me, that's what I would do. And then most importantly, the big thing that I feel like this track is missing is some percussion. There's not really any that I know of. There's no hi-hats. And I think that, I've said this before on stream when talking about when you're making dance music, percussion is really, really key for two reasons. Number one, it helps bring up the energy level and fill in the space between your kick and your clap. And number two, it adds some interesting groove or rhythm to it so that people can dance to it in different ways. So I think especially as you get, as the energy is building up throughout the entire song, adding little tiny new bits and layers of percussion will help kind of build that energy with it and make it more intense as things go on. And it also will make the whole song feel like there's a little bit more kind of like intricacy going on with the drums. But other than that, I think it's sounding really good. I think that, like I said, the synth work sounds really good. I think it'd be really cool if you switched up the rhythm on the bass line every once in a while, like maybe added in some triplets or took out a couple notes. Like, I don't know, play with like how often it's repeating. I think that could be kind of cool. Yeah, some like off time hats in there would go really well. Maybe some shakers. Yeah, overall it's sounding really, really solid. Everything sounds super clean. And it's also like, it's kind of minimal in terms of layers and things you have going on, but each layer sounds really nice, which is, I think, one of the benefits of going for a more kind of like minimalistic approach to kind of arranging and putting all these ideas together. But yeah, really, really nice work here. Chat, any other thoughts, ideas, questions, comments? So Jacob, how are you doing? Also, if anybody is enjoying the stream, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already, all that kind of stuff. It is super appreciated. Jacob, your track is not found. Usually this happens when you have a private link and then you just give me the URL, but you have to actually link me the private URL link. It's like a little, you know what's going on. You know what I mean? I'm enjoying the snow. I've got the heat cranked up, so I am very warm and it looks very cold outside. Cool. Nice. That is pretty dope. I like it quite a bit. Like the sound design, I feel like it definitely like creates an atmosphere. It like creates like a lot of like images in my head. I also really appreciate the cover art here. That's actually pretty sick. So first off, I feel like the drums could use a little bit of love in terms of where they're sitting in the mix, particularly your kick and your snare. This is most noticeable in the intro, where you have all these cool, interesting percussive things going on that are much louder than the main drums. Like you can just tell the drums are like just way too quiet here. So crank those up here, maybe turn down some of the percussive layers as well. And then during like the main sections of the song, you still need a lot more drums in there. So it's more noticeable during the intro, but it's most of the track definitely at least needs more kick. And then as far as like your main kind of synth part going, this guy, to me it sounds a little bit over processed. And I know this because I've made sounds like this before. And I think it sounds really cool, but it's missing some of the power. So if I were you, I might scale back some of the effects and or layer it together with just like a straight up saw wave or a square wave, playing the exact same note, the exact same timing, and then kind of mix the two together. So that way you get a little bit more of this kind of like low end or low mid range kind of sound. And then use this main synth line, where is it? This guy, sound. Use that as like the high end part of it, and then use like a saw wave or square wave as kind of like the mid range part of it, and then combine the two together to make something that sounds like really, really huge. Other than that, anything else? I think some of your ear candy, your kind of like atmospheric background layers could also go down a little bit in volume, and that I think will also help clear up a little bit more space in your mix so you can hear everything a little bit better. Some of them, they sound really cool, and I really like them, but they are a little bit, they're not too loud, but they're loud enough that they are taking attention away from some of the other like more main kind of focus sounds. Like here, there's like a drone in the background that's a bit too loud. I really like this kind of like bell percussive melody thing you have going on here towards the end. Yeah, I think overall, I think one of the best parts about this track is your ability to integrate a lot of those kind of like weirder ear candy kind of sound effects into all of the other elements that are happening. I think that flows really well for the most part. Yeah, that's mostly it. I think it's just get the drums figured out a little bit, get the mix dialed in a little bit more, and a little bit more layering / slightly less processing on that main kind of synth line. And I think that'll help out quite a bit. But yeah, really solid work. I like it quite a bit. Chat, any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? All right, so Young Charlotte, pretty much anytime somebody shares a hip hop track, it helps me to know if this is you on the vocals or on the beat or both.
Y'all done got me started and shit, bro. Made me come back to rapping. But oh God, bro, don't piss me off. But I'm back in this bitch,
Most of y'all niggas ain't full coming to rubbish shit. I give you a book and my name Jimmy Butler. I keep me a wish on my name. Tell me turn the free tails. You know he kept them a burning. Yo nigga got robbed across the corner. Fuck out that nigga trying to fuck on your daughter. I'm a young nigga, but I'm inventing this shit. I'ma spray the blood like some motherfucking roaches. Feel like which book cannot be stopped. Everywhere I go, I gotta be chopped. Hey, he talking shit, he can get your ass dropped. He ain't game no more, get his ass to the pitch. Yo, get your ass up for a nutty or sister. My name is untrue for a reason. I changed this season. Call me a demon. Feel like I'm scorpion or argue your peons.
Oh, John got combo, burger at the front. Said he trapping, but you know they capping. Shake with the lies. Did it for the chick, and she got them fat ass thighs. Now we wanna test this gangster, now he act surprised. You want smoke with them? They ain't use it. Pen, I said that again, they ain't between your eyes. Nobody's your friend, you mind a golden hint. When that penny drops, you gotta rely.
I tried to foot this one bitch, next thing you know, she said she was gay. I told her, let me give it the fever. Just like a dead nigga on the receiver. Back in 9th grade, I feel so played. Walk in the door, I smell straight gas. I was 11 and my grandma called me fast. Look at my nigga, see Lou, he pull up with a stick. See, only 12, he stay with the streaks. Pull up with me, I'ma shoot from the face like I'm Nello from the Knicks. Even though with me, I'ma keep me a stick. So if any nigga try me, I promise I ain't stand a lot. I'm a cold little nigga that rap his shit. I feel like 50, too many niggas wanna kill me, but ain't none of y'all niggas ain't touched me yet.
Many sound like young and I know, but I still be talking about shit on the track. Just like Trail, I keep me a Mac. I don't work, I just keep me rack stacking. My money's taller than Shaq. Fucking with me, I'll pull up the yak. No menace, this ain't a diss. I just wanna fuck, don't wanna kiss. You know me, I keep me a stick.
The nigga talking shit, so I ran up on him, he gas scared. I think about it now. I swear y'all rappers would I scream long live jump out. No, I'm not gonna see him again, but shit, I still support it though. And I swear everybody smelling your face, they not your friend. Most these niggas out here don't give a fuck, but they'll laugh and give you around. Then they talking shit, but I'm a real ass nigga. I keep everything real. I seen niggas on their own, niggas get jumped, and then I help like that shit is fake. I sit back and don't say shit. That nigga, baby, can't you say it best? Better with friends, but it don't matter though.
All right, nice. So I think the big issue here that I'm hearing is that it sounds like you guys are recording on different microphones in different rooms. And so you can hear it in the audio quality where just like when one person starts rapping and then the other person starts rapping, it sounds like you're literally just going from one room to the next room. And so I think the biggest and probably most important thing you can do is figure out, I don't know if you guys are in the same location or not, but figuring out a way to make it so it sounds consistent between your vocal recordings. So it's going to depend a lot on what kind of mic you're using, how you're recording, the room that you're recording in, all that kind of stuff. And I think if you're in a situation where you can both get in the same room together and record together, that's going to make a huge difference. Okay. But it sounds different. So either one person is like way up close to the microphone and one person's a little bit farther back. I don't know, there's something very different like between the two of you. And like you can even hear right here, right around like 40 seconds in, he comes in, I don't know which one's you. He comes in at a normal volume and then he gets louder. Like right away. It's normal volume. And then it gets louder and it gets more scratchy, right? So watch out for that. Like make sure that, you know, as you're rapping, you're staying a consistent distance from the microphone unless you're purposely trying to get louder or purposely trying to get quieter. And then specifically in whoever this is, there's a lot of like high frequencies that are coming in. Yeah, you're getting a lot of high frequencies here. So being able to EQ those out is going to be really, really important. Are you doing any processing after you've recorded? Are you doing like any, like, so you're recording it in, are you using any effects? What kind of software are you recording into? Like it helps to know a little bit more about what your situation is, and that way I can give you more useful feedback. But a little bit of EQing could go a long way. A little bit of gating could go also help out a bit, help with some like the breathiness of some of the recording. And a little bit of compression can also go a long way to kind of like use those three tools after you're recording to kind of dialed in a bit. So again, I'm not sure what kind of software you're using for recording, but essentially, if you use something like this, let me just like run a piano through it. Yeah, so if you're recording through your phone, you can get like microphone adapters that you can get onto your phone, and that would help out quite a bit. But I think being able to like take that recording, run it through some kind of audio software. There's free audio software, editing software out there, and being able to like use an EQ to get rid of some frequencies can be really helpful. Compressing it's going to be really useful, and then gating it's going to be really useful. There's like the three kind of effects you're probably going to want to put on your vocals there. But a little bit of post-processing. Yeah, I don't know what BandLab is. I've never used BandLab before. It's going to make a big difference, because the big issue here is not your rapping. It's not the quality of your verses, it's not the quality of your rapping, but it's the quality of the recording. It's the issue. So being able to fix that a little bit after you record is going to make 100% all the difference in the world. So that's kind of what I'd look into, because the rapping sounded good for the most part. It sounded like you guys know what you're doing. But you could definitely tell that the recording quality was not at the level it needed to be at. So that's something you probably want to look into. I've never used BandLab before, so I'm not sure if they have any options in there, but there are fairly affordable options for processing audio these days, even if you just do it on your phone or whatever. It'll make a big difference. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. You're getting a head start on everybody else by doing this stuff now. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling. I mean, I think that, like I said, the rapping works. It's the audio quality that's the issue. And I think that's something that you guys can definitely look into and you can definitely work on. Sweet. Chat, you got any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Let us know. Sweet. Next up, we got a track from Pineapple, I think, right? Yeah. Nice. That was super cool. Before I start talking about this track, just to let anybody know, this is the last track in the spreadsheet as of right now. So if you have not yet submitted a track and would like to send one in, click on the link up at the top of the chat, and you'll be next after this one. So yeah, I really dig it. It's really cool. Kind of has like almost like James Holden Fortet kind of vibes, very like IDM almost kind of thing. Really like the synth work, really like the kind of like slow build of the whole thing. I was expecting it to go into like a full-on groovy dance thing, and that might be where you're going in the future, and I think that'd be a really cool direction to go with it. But I like how kind of restrained the whole thing is as of right now. With that being said, I do feel like the first like minute or a half or so was a little bit too slow for my taste. I think you can keep this arrangement like this if you want to, if you keep it this long. If you're going to do that, I think one or two other elements need to change or come in to kind of like keep that first minute and a half really like interesting. Because to me, this is like not quite enough to sink my teeth into. But once we get around here, once we get the synth part coming in, then it gets really cool. So I'd either add one or two more layers to this first minute or and a half, or I would tighten it up a little bit and maybe start it around here. So you get like 30 seconds of this kind of thing, and then we get the synth coming in. Up to you, whichever one you think will work. But I do think that the first minute and a half is not quite enough for me to get really into it quite yet. And then once we get there, from like here on out, from basically like a minute 45 to the end, I'm really digging the kind of like the synth part works really well. I like how atmospheric it gets. As I mentioned, I was expecting it to go into like a full-on kind of like groovy, housey kind of thing towards the end there. And if you wanted to go there, that'd be great. But from here on, I think it's really solid. I do think it'd be cool if the percussion did a little bit more than what it's doing. I think it's accomplishing its goal, but a little bit of variety in there I think will help spice up the whole thing. And then from there, it's kind of like, all right, well, where do you want to take this arrangement? Do you want to like keep it kind of chill and more ambient, or do you want to go more groovy with it? I think both are really legit options, but overall, really solid work. Chat, any thoughts, ideas, questions, comments? Cool. So it looks like Jacob, I'm going to skip you right now because we got other tracks from people who have not sent in one yet, but we'll get back to you in probably real soon. And next up, we got a track from Jagwag. Nice. Really solid work here. Drum and bass, I think, is one of the hardest genres to produce in, and I think this is sounding really, really good, especially the drums. And I think drums are one of the hardest parts about making drum and bass, and I think the drums sound really spot on. They fit in the mix really well. They work fantastically. I have a couple of like really minor pieces of feedback here, but I think for the most part, this is sounding fairly polished and is, once you get the vocals on there, I think you're going to be pretty much good to go. So one of the big issues that I was noticing is your main synth line gets lost in the mix a little bit. So I think turn the volume up on that main synth line, and then some of your pads, I agree with what Jack was saying, turn the volume on some of your pads and more kind of atmospheric layers down a little bit, and that will make it so that the synth line stands out a little bit more. So synth line goes up a tiny bit, pads go down a tiny bit, and that should be a nice balance where that main synth line, which you want to be the most important thing, to be really heard. And I think that'll fix a lot of your problems. It sounds like you kind of intentionally bring up the pads towards the end here, and I think that's okay. But like during this section here, love those pad sounds, but they're a bit too loud. And then other than that, the other big thing is you have this kind of like muted kick, and then you have a different snare over here. I would just do it just with volumes. Jack, to answer your question, just like turn the volume up on the main synth part and the volume down on the atmospheric layers. That'll probably do the trick. So I think the muted kick here is fine. That snare though, I'm just not loving. It's just like, it doesn't fit with the kick. It sounds a little out of place. And I think this partially has to do with how nice your drums sound in all of the rest of the song. But that snare sound was just not doing it for me. Like this one's fine over here, but the one here, just I don't know, it's just not doing it for me. But yeah, other than those two things, I feel like this track is really working. And one of the things you'll notice in this more kind of like, I don't know, more kind of EDM-y, poppy kind of drum and bass is that those main synth lines can be really loud. Like you can really crank them up in the mix and that's totally fine. Like imagine like hearing this at a festival stage or something like that. It's like that main synth line is going to be bringing in a lot of that energy. So you can go pretty nuts with it, and I think that's totally fine. Yeah, and then toss some vocals on here, and I think you're good to go. But yeah, overall, really solid work. Everybody's been having really awesome tracks. I can tell people have really good tracks when pretty much my only feedback is based on mixing, because if there's something more important that needs to be fixed before mixing, I'll focus on that stuff. But if I'm focusing on mixes a lot in my feedback, that means the songs themselves are really solid, and it's mixing is one of the last things you need to do to kind of like finalize it. Yeah, I think a few transitions and outro, like I wouldn't mind a little outro in there. But yeah, I think you're mostly on your way there. Sweet. So next up, we got a track from Alex. Yeah, Jack, you can add an extra one, but there's no guarantee I'll get to it today. Most likely I will, though. Nice. This is like some really old school minimal dubstep experimental kind of thing going on here, which I like quite a bit. So vibe-wise, I like what you have going on a lot. It's not too over the top. It's like it keeps it real minimal. There's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of changes that happen throughout the arrangement. And I think overall, the sounds generally complement each other and they generally work together. I got a few ideas of different things you could try out if you would like to kind of like explore this area a little bit more. Number one, this might be a personal opinion thing, but the that little arpeggiated thing, there's like a couple little notes that you use for most of the first half of the song. I'm not in love with. I think it's okay. I think it sounds like a random arpeggiator just spitting out some notes, which I think is cool. I think it can work. But for me, it's not quite as inspiring as a lot of the other sounds that I'm hearing in this track that I think are working together. So it sounds a little bit out of place. It sounds like it's a little bit like, I don't know, it sounds like some like random generative stuff tossed in there with a bunch of other stuff that's a bit more like carefully picked out. If you love that sound, keep it, don't listen to me. But I think that there's probably cooler sounds you could put in there that I think would fit that kind of melodic element for the first half of the song. But that's up to you. The other thing is, this is more for the first half of the song, I feel like. Part of the benefit of doing more kind of like minimalistic styles of music where you have not only not a lot of sounds, but a lot of space in between those sounds is getting to play with that space in between the sounds, right? And you do this a lot more in the second half of the song where you use reverbs and delays to have things echo out. So you have a sound and then it echoes for a while, and then you have another sound and it echoes for a while. And I think you could do that a lot more in the first half of your song. This is like an old school, dub way of making music where you have all the space and then you kind of like selectively choose, like you get to echo out for a while and then you get to echo out for a while. And you could do a bit more of that in the first half of the song. Like every fourth snare, give it a bunch of reverb or a bunch of delay so it echoes out, and be really selective about it. And I think that could be really cool. You do that more in the second half of the song. Like here, you can hear that a lot more in the drums here. But here, I think you're doing the thing more, but you're not being selective about it. So everything kind of has that echo, or sounds have that echo every single time. So if you're really selective about which things get echo sounds or when things get echo sounds and when they don't, I think that'll be super helpful. But yeah, other than that, I think it was really cool. I think you could put a little bit more emphasis on the distortion on your low end here. You have that kind of like, I like the little space there. See, I like this kind of xylophone marimba kind of sound here a lot. I think that fits a lot better than that sound does. But yeah, overall it's really cool. I'm kind of curious to see here, like, you know, which direction you're gonna go with it. You're gonna add in more layers, you can keep it real minimal. If you have any plans on where you're gonna take this from here. But I think overall it sounds really cool. And so I really dig the kind of like down tempo minimalist aesthetic of it. And I think you could really explore that space quite a bit, and take this in a number of different directions if you want to. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And once again, if you guys are enjoying the stream, the feedback, feel free to hit the like button. Oops, I grabbed the wrong one. Maybe I didn't. All right, so we did one from Jagwag. People are changing their YouTube names on me. And it's confusing. Either that or I'm just clicking on the wrong links. Okay, so that's the one we just listened to. All right, so I believe at this point, yeah, Alex, listen to some like old Benga or old Scream to see if you can like get some influence, like the stuff they're releasing in like 2004, 2005, 2006, to get that like idea of making things kind of dubby, but also kind of minimalistic and, you know, modern at the same time. So yeah, so I think at this point we've gotten through one track from everybody who has sent one in. If anybody is just joining us or has not sent in a track, now would be the time to do that. So now I'm gonna be getting to the tracks from people who have sent in more than one. So that's, I think, where we're at. Oh, wait. Okay, never mind. We got one other track from somebody who's only sent in one. It's just the spreadsheet was being weird. I got you.
Wonder.
Yeah, I feel that's dope.
Say you look good for the one time ride. Let's make love in the moonlight ride. And it's you so that my legs 999 and that's a lie. If you try me, take your life.
Okay, we'll get to the other one. I think the link got moved or something like that. Send the link in again.
Told me you leave me, you packed. Someone they drove with me. Call him so fake, oh, he hit out the mouth. Shit on my door, someone find him a mouth. And I know when these lyrics gon' hit her. Come out the back, cause I am the pitcher. Swing and a miss. Talk about him when I think I feel sicker. Sicker and sicker. Talk to my friends and I tell them I miss her. You know better than I you won't be for the game. Up in the eye, make it slang. Honey, it won't break your heart. I just want to shake that your love from afar. Tell me you haven't seen. Had you be geeking on medicine. Making these songs till I'm relevant. You don't love me. Man, I tried it and tried it again. Feel like losing, I'm never gonna win. Just tell me this, the end. It's the end. I don't even know how to begin. I don't even know how to restart. Knowing me, I don't got no friends. Ran away with you all in my love. 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 I'm in love with the moonlight. Let's make love in the moonlight. I'm in love with the moonlight. I've been myself since birth, boy. Ain't not lie. I've been myself since birth, boy. Ain't not lie. Say you look good for the one time ride. Let's make love in the moonlight ride. Man, it's you so that my legs 999 and that's a lie. If you try me, take your life. We're not pulling out the pipe. Now I'm way too fitting. Off the Henny, I can't drive. faded off any, I'm a blackout. The life what I hit, keeping it tag out. Now you won't come cause I'm getting this bread now. Up in the street and I'm swerving the vet now. Yeah. Off with a drive for wag. Come on, he drive for smack. Call him so fake, oh, he hit out the mouth. Shit on my door, someone find him a mouth.
All right, nice. So before I start giving feedback on this, so Jagwag, we're going to get to your track in a minute. There's one link that is sending to the track we already listened to before. Jagwag, yours is fine, I think, unless... Yeah, your link is fine, but Hilixkin, your first link is taking me to a track that I already heard from somebody else. So I think your first link might be broken or something like that. Let's try it again. Okay, I got the other one from you. So I think I got everybody's now. Apologize about the confusion. I mean, I'll be able to do both. If you would prefer I just do one, I can do the other one if you want. But we're gonna have time to get around to two from everybody who wants to. Real quick about this track, I honestly think it sounds really good. I can get through this. So I think, to me, the only real thing that this track really needs is a little bit less emphasis on the backing vocals. Like, some of those backing vocals, I think, are just a little bit too loud. If it were up to me, I would also dial back the reverb on the main vocals just a tiny bit. I know that's kind of like the stylistic choice for this style of music. Yeah, I think you could turn up the processing a little bit on the main vocals and then the volume a lot less on the backing vocals. And I think, other than that, I think this track is working. I think, like, the beat sounds good. The beefy kick sounds good. Yeah, more volume on the main vocals, less volume on the backing vocals. Run away with you all of my love. 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 I'm in love with the moonlight. I'm in love with the moonlight. I'm in love with the moonlight. I've been myself since birth, boy. Ain't not lie. I've been myself. Me take your life. We're not pulling or the pipe. I kind of wish the melodic part was doing a little bit more, but it's not a huge deal. The melodic part is really there just to kind of back up the vocals. So if you wanted to do more with that, I think that'd be cool. But to me, it's just dialing the mix a little bit on the vocals, but the beat sounds pretty solid on this track. Sweet. So, all right. Now we're going to get into all the people who have sent me. I need like a separate spreadsheet for people who send in more than one track. That'll make it a little less confusing. So there's 3 people who have sent in more than one track. First one was Jacob. So your track, same thing from last time probably. You need to send me the private link. And then 1800 GS sent one through Discord that I will grab in a second. Just give me a moment. And we will make sure we get to everybody's, all the tracks from everybody. We got a music video.
reckless, I might crash the Range Rover. Shawty feeling pain, when we make love, it's not the same. Running to the ends, you know they got their fucking hands out. I might drop some bands through the dance, that's how I stand now. Coded camera action, see the BB send us dancing. Shorty like my shoes when I'm fucking with no hands. Yeah, this pole is about to blow. 2 shots, let it go. Say she down but want some more. Oh well, shawty bring it back. Go, I can bleed it right. Fuck it, take it back. I'm deep in the night with your heart. Spicy, feel like ball. Grab on smoke with the sauce. Lucky can't hurt the gas, yeah. Push it, see in the fan, I'm going fast, yeah. I gotta go, yeah. I'm going fast, yeah. Yeah, my heart for the boys, you know I've been gone. Peace right, I'm a po-fo, feel no pain. I'm riding reckless, I might crash the Range Rover. Shawty feeling pain, when we make love, it's not the same. Yeah, my heart for the boys, you know I've been gone. Peace right, I'm a po-fo, feel no pain. I'm riding reckless, I might crash the Range Rover. Shawty feeling pain, when we make love, it's not the same. Fucking with no hand, in the back with like a 10. Rolling back, he's in the bed, she giving head when I command. I need 2 V's in the S, John Wayne right, I double X. That pocket rocket comes in price, these birds stay ready out the nest. Yeah, my heart for the boys, you know I've been gone. I'm riding reckless, I might crash a Range Rover. And when we make love, it's not the same. Yeah, my heart for the boys, you know I've been gone. Peace right, I'm a po-fo, feel no pain. I'm riding reckless, I might crash the Range Rover. Shawty feeling pain, when we make love, it's not the same.
All right, nice. So I got a couple. Yep. Let's get out of there. I got a couple questions about the about how you made this. So number one, you said you mix your own stuff. Did you write the beat too? And number two, there were a couple edits in there, a couple like filter sweeps and things like that were specifically for the video. Like it looked like the scene shifted in the video, and then the music changed with it. So is that also in the actual track itself? Because I'm just curious about how that works. I'm assuming it's just for the video, but some of them were just in there. All right. Overall, I think the track works pretty well. I think the beat sounded pretty solid. I think the vocals fit with the beat pretty well. I know that the overly auto-tuned vocals are part of the style here, but there's a few points where it was just, you could have been saying literally anything and I would have had no idea. And so I think toning down the processing on the vocals just a tiny bit, I think will make it so that your vocals will come through with more clarity. And I also think it'll sound a little bit more authentic. It'll sound more like you instead of it just being like 100% overly auto-tuned vocals. There's like still a little bit of you in there. And I think that could be cool. If you're not into that as a stylistic choice, that's totally fine. However, there were a couple like really big filter sweeps like that where I felt like the filter sweeps were a little bit too much. I felt like they were like really just kind of coloring everything. And I think more importantly, the resonance on those filter sweeps was a little bit too much. So I'm assuming those filter sweeps, a lot of those are still in the actual song itself. And if it were me, I probably wouldn't, I would still have some elements of the song being filtered and doing that kind of sweepy sound, but maybe not the entire thing, and maybe not quite as much resonance on those filters. I like this part a lot. But you can hear the resonance on that filter as it's kind of like moving around there. So I think a little bit less resonance would make a big difference.
Yeah, my heart for the boys, you know I've been gone. Heat spray, I'm a po-fo, feel no pain. I'm riding reckless, I might crash the Range Rover. Shawty feeling pain, we make love, it's not the same.
Yeah, I think if it were up to me, I would keep the really heavy auto-tune on the backing vocals and then make the main vocals a little bit less processed. Yeah, I can tell you like the filter a lot because you use it like, I don't know, all the time. It's like you're doing like a DJ filter, like as if you're a DJ on stage filtering something, but you're doing it in the song that's just being played, you know, somebody's just gonna be playing at home. So I think that it just sounds a little bit too over the top on those filter sweeps. But yeah, those are mostly what I'm hearing there. Like for the most part, it's moving around and it sounds good. The beat sounds good, the vocals sound good for the most part, but a little bit too processed for my taste. But that might be a personal taste thing. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The video looks cool. I mean, it looks like you filmed it in a haunted house, and it's like it's definitely got some production value behind it. Sweet. All right, now we're getting to the songs from people who have sent in more than one song. Nice, that was dope. Nice. Vibe-wise, really, really on point. This may be one of my favorite tracks that I've heard from you. Overall, the whole thing flows really well together. Sound design is really on point. The percussion sounds top-notch. However, you probably know what I'm going to say first. The drums are not loud enough. Those kicks and the snare sound need to be like just thumping through the mix here. And they're audible, they're there, but they need to hit way, way harder. So more love on those. And then as much as I love your percussion, a little bit less volume on the percussion I think will help out quite a bit, just to help round out the mix. Other than that, I feel like I love that section. Your main melody parts, there's 2 different melody parts it sounds like. Both of them I think could be a little bit louder. This one here has like either a little bit of like a really subtle echo or a pretty like a reverb or something like that. A little bit less of that reverb and a little bit more volume in the mix, and I think that'll bring it to the front a bit more. And I think that'll help it out for both when it happens over here as well as when it happens over here. And then there's another melodic part, this part here. Down, 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 down. More emphasis on that. Maybe layer it up with something else happening an octave higher and then bring up the volume on that, because that's a really cool melody line and it's being smothered a little bit in the mix here. And I think bringing that up in volume I think will be really nice. I wasn't sure about the really long note you had over here. This guy. But I kind of like it. It's like kind of weird how long that goes for. And I like how it kind of shifts. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Not necessarily more low on the drums, just more volume on the kick in general. I just need to hear that kick. And maybe go a little bit heavier with some of your side chaining on some of your other parts of your song coming from your kick, so that kick cuts through a little bit more. Like if you just fix the kick and you just get that kick to really just hit really hard, the song is going to crush it. And then there's a couple other minor things, but the big thing is the kick, and making sure that that really is like feels powerful. Because again, if you're going to play this at a club or something like that, people really got to feel that kick. And if they do, they're going to dance to it. And if they can't feel the kick, then this kind of, because the rest of the song is so atmospheric and kind of spacey, then they might just be like standing there. But if the kick really hits, then people will start to move to it, which I think is important. But yeah, really cool track, really digging it. All right, so next up we got a track from Jagwag. Hey Jacob, your sound design has been sounding really good. Nice. Again, really solid work here. I feel like this track has a lot of things that are going for it really well. I like the kind of like distorted guitar parts. I like the main synth part. I think something that I'm noticing from both of your tracks is that your synth parts sound really good, but they need to sound huge for this style of music. They need to sound absolutely massive. So if you are not best friends with the saturator or a saturator in general, depending on what software you use, just really just go over the top of the saturator on a lot of your big synth parts, and I think that'll really help make it just sound really huge. And then I agree with, I think what Alex said, which was that the drums are holding this track back in a very big way. And just as an example, I'd like to point out to the track that you played earlier today. If you listen to the drums here, listen specifically to the quality of the kick and the snare versus listening to the kick and the snare here. The drums on this track are very acoustic sounding. Like they sound like somebody's actually playing the drums and just playing them really fast, right? Whereas the drums here, your kick sounds very short and very quick and very digital. And then your drum sounds very long and noisy and also digital. And so I think just based off of that sample selection for your drums, it like totally changes the overall quality, like not quality in terms of good or bad, but quality in terms of like, you know, quantitatively how you hear it for your drums. So I was talking how much I love your drums in your last track. This track, they're not quite the same. So whatever you did over here, see if you can repeat it over here. And there's nothing wrong with like, you know, synthesizing them yourself and doing them yourself, or mixing and layering acoustic sounding drums with digital sounding drums, so you get a little bit of both. That can also work really well. But the drums here were not doing it for me in the way they were in the previous track. That's the big thing, I think. I think the synth part is working. I'm also a little bit on the fence about your bass line. You have this kind of like choppy bass line. And I think that kind of bass line can work in here, but right now it feels a little bit like, I don't know, the quality of that bass line does not match what's happening in the rest of the track. So I would look into that as well. It's not as big of a deal. To me, the drums are much more the main thing you need to focus on in here. But have a look at that bass line as well. I know you have like the long notes in this one. Yeah, you have the kind of sustained notes. Not to say you need to repeat that over here, but maybe have like a slightly different rhythm to what the bass is doing. Good work. But yeah, those are the main two things I'm noticing in this track. And I think part of the reasons the drums stuck out so much is because I love the drums so much in your other track that you shared. But yeah, overall really solid work. Like I said, the synth parts, for the most part, sound really good. Just make them sound even bigger, and that'll make a big difference. All right, next up we got a track that the link didn't work for before.
Voice.
Why why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Sit down and just talk a minute, can we have a conversation? Tell me that you still talk to your ex and now it's complicated. Been a month, I text you back and don't get faded. Like why me? I might crash your rave, any rest on rest today. Like why me? Like why me? You're the devil, told me you would leave it. Just like just one said, I knew your looks will be deceiving. Love is not the only thing that you've been receiving. Devil sent a text on my phone, he said you cheated. Told me that I need to let go. Love is like a mystery, you'll never ever know. All we did is cherish her, love her, keep her close. Never knew what you had till she really go. Tell her that you love her and she mean the world to you. If you still wanna leave, at least you gotta know her. Tell her that you love her every day, you gotta show her. Crying on my shoulder, sit down, can we ever? Sit down and just talk a minute, can we have a conversation? Tell me that you still talk to your ex and now it's complicated. Like why me? Like why me? I might crash your rave, any rest on rest today. Tell me that she love me, then she don't, I know she here to play. Like why me? Like why me?
Nice. I think my feedback for this track is really similar to the feedback from the track you shared earlier. I think that your background vocals are almost as loud, if not just as loud as your main vocal part. So take the background vocals, turn them down a little bit, and then a little bit less processing on the main vocals. And I think that will create a better balance between the two and make it so the backing vocals are supporting what the main vocals are doing rather than distracting from what the main vocals are doing. Other than that, I think the beat sounds really good. I really like the guitar. The only thing about the beat that I think maybe needs a little bit of love is your snare sounds a little dry. Or your clap sounds a little dry. A little bit of reverb, a little bit of compression goes a long way with that to just make it like feel more full. I think that'll make a big difference. I think the boomy 808 could go down in volume a tiny bit. Not that much, because you still want it to be that big, huge 808 thing. But just compared to everything else that's going on in your mix, I think that could go down like a decibel or a half a decibel, and that'd be fine.
You'll never ever know. All we did is cherish her, love her, keep her close. Never knew what you had till she really go. Tell her that you love her and she mean the world to you. If you still want to leave, at least you gotta know her.
Yeah, and a little bit, just a little bit less reverb, and I think that that'll help out as well. But yeah, both this track and the last track both sound really polished, and I think it just has like little tiny details of getting the vocals just right, so it's not too over the top, and you're good to go. I think the beats sounded both really good in both of them, and then the vocals just need that little bit of just like dialing in a tiny bit. I think a lot of times when it comes to processing, especially with vocals, less is more in a lot of situations, and I think you can get things that still have that quality to them, that kind of like big, lots of things going on. I don't know how to describe it. Just like that, like really reverbed, really atmospheric vocal sound that it sounds like you're going for. But still also not be like totally reverbed out. Oh man, we're so close to being done, and then a couple people added some new tracks. So Alex, I apologize, unless we got 2 more tracks and then we'll get to your other one. But gonna try to get to everybody. Looks like we got a track from Nick. Nick, is this you on the beat or the vocals or both? Assuming not both, it's produced by somebody else.
Hit a nigga line, what's the issue? Bitch. No, I don't miss you. Bitch. No, I don't wanna see you. Bitch. Rather get M's and count my chips. Yeah, hey, rather get M's and count my chips. I ain't got time for no broke ass bitch. I could probably just go build a 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 bitch. Stay to myself, what the fuck is a team? Niggas be junkies, they popping on beans, smoking on foil, you niggas all fiends. I never stress, behind the scenes, got plenty tree, bitches on me. Louis Vuitton, give it to me. I send a verse, you pay the fee. They say I'm the shit, I can't disagree. My watch is on faucet, my wrist got a leak. Watch how you speak when you speaking to me. Killers outside, you know what they creep. Up on the prowl, don't get no sleep. Look in the barrel, you obsolete. Bitch, I'm a dog, I gotta eat. We ain't together, ho, I'm a cheat. Hit a nigga line, what's the issue? Bitch, no, I don't miss you. Bitch, no, I don't wanna see you. Bitch, rather get M's and count my chips. Yeah, hey, rather get M's and count my chips. I ain't got time for no broke ass bitch. I could probably just go build a bitch. I could probably just go build a
Sorry about that, Nick. The Nightbot got ya.
I could probably just go build a bitch. I could probably just go build a bitch. I could probably just go build a bitch.
Nice. So I'm going to give some feedback on both the beat and the vocals. I'm assuming, but since you can go back and have them change the vocals or change the beat a little bit. So overall, I think the beat is pretty solid. It's a little bit simple. Like it never really changes, or it doesn't really do much. It just kind of like sustains, and it gets cut out a little bit. I think a little bit more emphasis on the melody could be nice. Like the melody is simple, but it's nice and it works. But it's really quiet in the mix, so I think that could be a little bit louder. I agree with what some people are saying about the hi-hats. They sound very consistent. They sound like somebody just like plugged them in and just hit duplicate, and you can really hear that here. They're all the same, exactly the same velocity. So I think you could change with panning. You could change velocity. You could change timing a little bit, add some groove to it. There's a lot of things you could do with these, as well as rhythm. I think like one of the iconic things about trap music is like the hi-hats changing speeds, and you have really fast ones and then slow ones and then triplets and then slow ones and jumping back and forth. For the most part, those hats are exactly the same all the way through. So give some love to those hats, and I think that'll help make the beat come alive a little bit more. Other than that, in terms of what's happening with the vocals,
I don't miss you. No, I don't.
There's like a bit of like a, I don't know why pretty much all the rappers on the stream today have had a lot of reverb on their vocals. And I think that that's good. I think having a little bit of reverb on vocals can add a lot of depth, add a lot of character to a vocal. But when you hear this, it sounds like you're like in a big empty room.
I don't miss you. No, I don't want to see you. Rather get in.
And you can hear it echo out for a really long time. So I think dialing back that reverb on the vocals just a little bit will go a long way. Other than that, I think the actual vocal processing sounds really good. They sound really clean. You know, however you recorded them sounds really nice. I think a little bit more compression on the vocals could be nice, just to kind of like really make them pop. But I don't think that's super necessary.
Go build a bitch. I could probably just go build a bitch. And the scenes, got plenty tree, bitches on me, Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, definitely in this verse, more compression on the vocals.
Give it to me, I send a verse, you pay the fee.
And definitely less reverb.
They say I'm the shit, I can't disagree. My we ain't together, ho, I'm a cheat. Hit a nigga line, what's the issue? Bitch, no, I don't miss you. Bitch, no, I don't got time for no broke ass bitch. I could probably just go build a bitch. I could probably.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I got more things to say about the beat than I do the vocals. I think the vocals sound pretty good. Just more compression, less reverb. And then the beat, I think, could use just some more variety and some more kind of like effort and thought into it. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I kind of agree with most of what people are saying in chat about it as well. Anybody else? Thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Let us know. Damn, that was really, really good. Yeah, really solid work here. Love the use of the vocal sample. You used it enough that it became like a thematic element for the song without becoming too repetitive or kind of like, I don't know, sometimes people overuse samples like that. The drums sounded really, really tight. I think, honestly, if I have any real critical feedback here, I think that there's like a little bit too much of like the mid range of the kick. There's like, I don't know, I'm getting like maybe a little bit of distortion from the mid range. So maybe a little bit less emphasis on the mid range and more emphasis on the low end. But that's like very minute. I think honestly the kick is more or less fine where it is. But that was something I was noticing. But yeah, the snare sounded really fantastic. And I think if there's anywhere that this needs some love, I think that you could get a little bit more creative with some of your call and responses between your bass lines. Like you come in And it has this very kind of like opio kind of style drop, which I think is fantastic. I don't know, I think what I'm really trying to go at is maybe like the places where you use negative space here are really, really good. And I think you could get away with more negative space. Like when I think about this, I think about like Opio or somebody like that, where there's always places where they like pause music for a second and then go back in, which you do. I don't know, I think you could like really use the negative space, like chop things out and add like little tiny bits of silence here and there to really like emphasize like a lot of the funkiness of the rhythm and the groove of the track. Other than that, I love it. I think it sounds really, really good. The mix sounds really, really solid. I'm gonna like skip around to see if there's any other kind of like critical feedback I can think of here. But I think it sounds really good. I really liked how the second build went on a little bit extra long, like longer than I thought it was going to. I think that was a really good way to build the tension. I do think this build here could get a little bit louder. Like as it's doing this, it should keep getting louder and louder and louder before the drop comes in. Yeah, same thing here. A little bit of negative space, and I think that'll go a long way. I love those fills where you just like slam on the snare a bunch of times in a row. It's like not what I would have done with the snare fill there, but it works and it sounds really cool. But yeah, that's mostly what I'm thinking here. Like I said, not much I have to say in terms of things that need a lot of love. I think for the most part, this track is very much well on its way to being finished. But definitely send me this when it's done. I would definitely like play this in a DJ set out in a club somewhere. It sounds really dope. Chat, you got any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? What are you thinking? You guys have been awesome today. I've been really appreciating the songs you've been sending. They've been dope.
Lost a friend, I'm sorry. Drunk again, don't worry. Voice is gone, you're screaming. Safe for you, don't leave me. Why can't it be so simple? Ghosts turned into symbols. Pierce your skull with needles. Lost in life, I need you. Miss you all you haunt me. Died so young, I'm sorry. I wanna be so lonely. Why'd you leave so early? I wanna be so lonely. Why'd you leave so early?
Damn, that is sick. 10 out of 10 for style points here. It's like to me, it feels like a weird mix of like witch house and hyperpop and down tempo. It's really, really cool style. I also like how the lyrics end with "Why do you leave so early?" and the song's called "Ghost," which makes it sound like they're talking about somebody who died. Yeah, fantastic work here. Really, really cool. I really like the progression. I like the vocal processing a lot. Is that you on the vocals, or is that a sample, or I don't know where you got that vocal from, but it works really well. It has like a nice kind of like emotional quality to it, which is one of the big criticisms I have for a lot of vocals in electronic music, is everything feels really sterile. And this vocal sounds like has this very kind of like vulnerable quality to it, which I really like.
Voice is gone, you're screaming. Need you.
I like the fake out here a lot, where you build it up, do this thing, and then go into the beat.
Miss you, all you haunt me. Died so young, I'm sorry. I wanna be so lonely. Why'd you leave so early? I wanna be so lonely. Why'd you leave so early?
Yeah, I love that part. I think I like what you're doing with the vocal chops over here. You're doing some interesting panning stuff over here. I like the concept of doing the panning. Some of them, it sounded like really far to different sides, so maybe don't go quite so heavy with the panning on some of those vocal chops, but I like the concept of doing the panning on the vocal chops.
Miss you, all you haunt me.
All right, I think in this situation, and this might be a personal preference thing more than anything else, I think when you go back into the second main chorus here, don't switch it back up to this sound. Just go right into it and just let it ride. I think I like this like fake out, and then you go into it, and then you fake them out again, and then you go back into it. Here, it just feels like too much. Like here, I think it'd be cool if it does this, and then right to the beat, and then just goes right back into it. Up to you though. I think it'd be more powerful just to make this one long chorus without the fake out here at the beginning.
I'm sorry. I wanna be so lonely. Why'd you leave so early? I wanna be so lonely. Why'd you leave so early?
I like what you're doing with the hats there at the end there too. Yeah, overall really solid work. I think this is like not a lot of critical things I have to say about this track. I really like the style. I really like the arrangement. It's like kind of out there and strange. And I think all of those things kind of work together to create a song that is like all one cohesive thing that works really well. So yeah, really solid work here. All right. We are over time on the stream, but there's 2 more tracks that I'm going to do, and then that's going to be it for today. Big thanks to everybody who has shared a song. Really appreciate it. If you are enjoying the stream, feel free to hit the like button, feel free to subscribe, all that kind of stuff. If you want to support the channel, you can check out the Patreon that should be linked below, I hope, probably. But yeah, I'm going to do this one, and then one more track from Alex, and I think that's going to be it for today. But once again, thank you guys.
Me quedo sin fuerzas para continuar. No me quedan ganas para levantarme. Estando aquí tirado no se está tan mal. Quédate conmigo solo un poco más de tiempo. Es lo que necesito. Tiempo. Es lo único que pido. Sin fuerzas para continuar. No me quedan ganas para levantarme. Estando aquí tirado no se está tan mal. Quédate conmigo solo un poco más de tiempo. Es lo que necesito. Tiempo. Es lo único que pido.
Nice, love it. Also, really high marks for stop points on this one. Did you share this one before? It sounds kind of familiar to me. So I think really there is one place here that I think needs to be taken a look at, and that's when the main vocals come in for the first time. Yeah, it's when the vocals and the synth part are like happening at the same time here. It's just really hard to hear the vocals cut through there. And so I think you might, depending on what your setup is and how things are connected together, either take the sidechain from the kick off of the vocals, so the vocals are not sidechains and everything else is, and or sidechain the synth part to the vocals. That way the vocals, when the vocals are coming in, your synth part that's kind of clashing with a little bit, it pushes them down a little bit so you can hear a little better. Try one or both of those things and see if that helps out a little bit, because you have these very synthetic sounding vocals and you have this really cool synth line, and they live in the same frequency range and they're happening at the same time. So they're fighting each other, and getting those two to play nicely is going to be a little bit tricky, but they sound really cool together. Because they sound really cool. The other third thing you could do there is just turn the volume up on the vocals, and then they will stick out in the mix more. The other piece of feedback that I have is your clap. I think sounds okay, but I think could be better. So just layer that bad boy up, and that will make all the difference in the world. If you're using Ableton Live, check out my video on drum layering that I did a while ago, and that's a really easy way to make your drums sound a lot better. I love this part. I think these vocal chops could also be a bit louder. It's not as big of a deal as your main vocal part, but they could be louder. Yeah, other than those like very minor things, I love this song. I think it sounds really cool. Kind of has like a little bit of like Arca vibes, kind of, maybe a little bit. Sweet. All right, this can be the last track for the stream. We got one more from Alex. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed the feedback, listening to people's tracks. I always have a good time doing this, so I hope you guys do as well. Nice. That's pretty dope. Yeah, I like the energy that's going on here. I feel like at first things sounded fairly disjointed from each other, but like as the song kind of comes along, you do a really good job of like integrating like all these different elements and making them kind of fit together and creating kind of like an architecture out of these different sounds. Yeah, I know Akio's playing things at house party and just clearing it out. Yeah, it's super cool. I like it a lot. If I were you, I feel like the big thing this track needs is processing. Like just going crazy with processing, especially with like distortions and phasers, flangers, choruses, those kinds of things to really kind of spice up these sounds. Because I think that they're really cool sounds and they work together, but a lot of them sound a little bit dry and a little bit raw. And I think if you put some time and effort and like, especially with a lot of your main sounds, like this one sounds cool. But I think like a little bit of distortion on that and like, I don't know, going a little crazy with some effects, I think would bring out a lot of the cool sounds you have in this song and really like, I don't know, push it even further into that experimental music world. And I think that would actually be really cool. And I think this whole thing, just a little heavier, would go a long way. The other thing is, I'm assuming this is intentional, but you have your hats and you have your claps, but there's no kick drum as far as I can tell. So I'm assuming you did that on purpose and you just didn't want it to, you wanted the rhythm to be something kind of like, I don't know, a little more abstract. But I think having a big distorted kick drum in here would give it that kind of anchor that I think would help mesh with a lot of your other sounds that you add a bunch of distortion to. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling about this track. Like, I think once we get in here, like, it actually adds some grooving a lot. But yeah, put a kick drum in there, and especially for that second half, and I think that'll go a long way. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling. I like what you got going on. I like all the elements there. Just really crime them up a bit and kind of see where that takes you, and I think that'd be really cool. Sweet. So that's gonna be it for the stream today. Yeah, I think if you make the kick work, then I think it'll be really cool. Again, if it's a stylistic choice, or if you're like, you know, I don't want there to be a kick, I want the rhythmic element to be created by all the sounds going back and forth. That's totally cool too. But I think the kick will really kind of anchor it. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. I appreciate all you guys, especially you guys sticking around to the end and hanging out with me. I will be back on Monday for another office hour stream where you guys can come in and just ask me questions about making music. And then Tuesday I do Patreon only streams. So if you're a Patreon member, I'll be in another production stream on Tuesday. And then of course I'll be back here on Wednesday doing this once again. Listen to your tracks and giving you feedback. So thank you guys for being here. Without this, the stream isn't really anything. So you guys make it what it is. But yeah, appreciate all the help giving feedback and all the songs you shared. So have a good weekend, work on some music, and I'll see you guys later.